I'll write it, and if anyone else has that need, well, then I'll support them. Like another client got fired because he wouldn't wear a mask, so I took on that case just so we can see how that plays out. And I'll tell you about the case. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So we probably are streaming, and I'll just
Right.
introduce everything in a moment. Um, it's really double check. Hey, everybody, if you're joining us, I think you are. Yeah, we are streaming on Facebook. We'll just have a second so folks can hop on, and I'll see if it grabs my feed on the phone. Yeah, we are up and running. So love it. Hey, friends, great to have you. Drop in a comment where you are uh, tuning in from, and I will take a look at those comments after we get underway. So just about a moment here, and I will officially open the show, which I'm so excited about. Oh my gosh. So welcome everyone. This is Peggy Hall from thehealthyamerican.org. I have an amazing guest with me today. It's actually our kickoff to the 3 o'clock Thursdays. So I've
Oh,
been doing a
cool.
lot of live
Yeah.
streaming on Facebook, and I realize not everybody has Facebook. Some people will be watching this after it is airing again on YouTube and wherever else it might be as a previous broadcasts. So every Thursday, I'm going to be coming 3 o'clock. So tune in, everyone, because I'll have guests or I'll do the show myself. It's very, very important that we keep on top of all of the changing events, the different laws, the different health orders. One of the goals of the enemy is to keep us confused and distracted. So we need to focus and become educated so that we can learn to take action. So at the Healthy American, those are the three principles: connection, like we're doing right now,
Hmm.
connect with experts, connect with one another. Education, let's learn how to do these things. Take action is the most important thing. And that is what we are going to learn all about today. So I've got a guest who is a healthy American who connected with me many months ago. And John Jay, I'm going to turn it over to you for an introduction. Would love to find out how you got to be such an expert in the law and writing up complaints and lawsuits and all that stuff. So
Okay.
take it away, and then we'll jump into our topic of the day.
All right. Well, thank you, Peggy. I appreciate that. And well, I started back in the 90s when I was in college, and I turned out where I thought credit cards were just free money, when I was a college student. So I just wasted my credit cards until I couldn't pay them anymore. And I was like, wow, I couldn't pay it. So I started looking at analytically what would happen if I just never paid them. And that led me to end up in like offices of debt collectors, literally talking to the owner, asking what would happen if I don't pay you guys. And I discovered, like, one guy laughed at me and said, a lot of this game is just bluff. And, people are so terrified, they'll just pay us. And actually, there's no connection between the debt collector. And so I was getting angry. So then I would go to court and hear like 50 Citibank cases, and nobody would respond. Like the attorney would call 50 cases and win them all like in 5 minutes. Not exaggerating. So I really was like, wow, okay, so this is some kind of racket. Whether or not people owe the money, I don't know, but gosh, if people would just object or deny it, then they might. I mean, so what happened was I started like taking a case. I would just go grab a case from the record, and I would contact the person and say, hey, would you like me to help you argue this case? I'm not an attorney, but I just literally would grab the case and go look at the rules, go in the library, in the law library. Back then, this was in the 90s, so had to go to the law library, pull the books out. And then in the beginning days, I could just file a response to the lawsuit and deny the allegations. And then a lot of times the attorney would quit because they weren't used to that. So I thought, well, that's interesting. And then I started looking at the laws, and there's all kinds of things going on. So, anyways, it evolved over the years. And so I saw it as an opportunity where I've always been an entrepreneur, and I saw, well, okay, people are being exploited, and just because they lack a little bit of knowledge. And so I put together like a reverse engineer process of how to solve a problem. And what I started realizing is that the problem isn't so much the debt collection in that case. It's that people just don't understand how to use it. They don't understand how to use that facility. So I began doing planning and structuring for people so they can manage the property rights and things like that. And now it's not so much of a debt problem when people call me because they have a debt problem, or because they think they want to pay less taxes. What they're going to get from me is more of a plan about how to actually manage risk, which is a more comprehensive plan. So I've been doing that for almost 30 years. And in that process, I've been pulled into all kinds of situations. I mean, I used to fly to other states where people were going to have to go in front of the district court judge for contempt for refusing to show up at an IRS summons, right? So I would literally go in the courtroom and talk to the judge. I'm not an attorney, and I would say whatever it is I needed to say, which is I'm not going to get into it. Basically, the judge would be like, "Please, yes, help us out," and I would do my thing and get the person out of the audit situation and move on, and he's not going to jail for contempt. And those are the worst cases. And so I would take all kinds of cases, like, for example, a suspended driver's license. Someone would say, "My friend told me to call you. I got a suspended driver's license." And I'd say, "Well, what's it suspended for?" "Not paying income taxes in Michigan or something," right? So I'd say, "Okay, here's what you do." And I'll just go on my computer, go find an application form for a state of Michigan, administrative hearing. I say, "Fill this out, get a hearing. Here's what you tell them." Type it out, send it to them. I coach them on the phone. They go to the hearing and they get the license reinstated. Then they call me up and say, "Why did that work?" And I say, "Well, if your license is suspended because you didn't pay your taxes, you can't pay your taxes unless you can get to work, right? And you can't get to work without a car in your case. So they're going to reinstate your license if you just ask them." So I've learned all the administrative procedure in that process. And so what I want to share with people in this, so when this came out this year with the fake pandemic, and I saw how they were exploiting people, I said, well, this is just the same people doing some in a little different way. Nothing new to me. I've already been in all these agencies and all this for, almost 30 years. Okay, what do you got? Grocery store won't let you in. Okay, that's false imprisonment. That's easy. And guess what? We don't have to sue you. I could just write a letter to the chief counsel. I've done that before for 20 years. I've been doing that. So now it's just like, the same old process with a new type of twist on it.
Well, let me interrupt you
So I
right
want to
there,
share,
John.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because this is, people are really, really excited about this information here. And when I promoted it, I was going to say how to sue Sprouts. And then I realized, no, that's not actually what we have to
Right,
do.
right.
You and I chatted about it a bit, and we are going to put them on notice. And it's really about taking a type of legal action, or informing them that we are on to them. So
Yeah.
before we get into the meat and potatoes here, because friends, I want you to roll up your sleeves, and I want to make sure you have this. Okay, you have a notebook and you have a pen, because John is a wealth of information. And I think, John, it was just like a divine, it was just providence that I don't even know how you came across my path, but before I knew it, you were emailing me letters and samples and documents. And friends, I have to tell you, this stuff it's so rich, it's so powerful, it's so astute. I made a file of legal documents, and when your letters came in, I would put it there, and it's like, oh, I got to sit down and study this. And that's why you're here today, is to
Uh-huh.
actually take us through step by step, because I want to make sure that people, and
Hmm.
friends, you're going to have a parting gift, everybody who's watching. You are going to actually have access to these documents. And guess what? It
Yeah,
is free.
yeah,
John is doing this for free. He said he
yeah,
doesn't want a penny.
yeah.
I work, we'll work for food. I think I have to hang out a shingle, because a lot of you guys have donated, financial support to me, which really helps, because both my jobs went kaput in this chaos. And which is great, because the silver lining is I'm 100% doing videos and research and web and technology. And so I thank you so much. This is going to be a master class on documents, on how to find the information step by step. He has got multi-page information that he's going to
Hmm.
take you through. So don't despair. You'll be able to watch this video again and again and again. I will have links to all the information, but here comes the teacher in me. What I would say is to jot down in your notebook questions you have, action steps you want to take. Don't feel that you have to take down, don't
Right,
copy all the documents. That's not the point.
right,
The point
right.
is for you to, write down questions, or action steps, or ideas that this gives you, so that you can refer to that later. We will have links for everything. It will be fill in the blank. Now, before we get started, because I know you healthy Americans are so ready to go, you may not have a Sprouts in your neighborhood. You might have fill in the blank. There are any number of grocery stores that may be discriminating against you. You will be able to adapt this information to your particular situation. Later, I'm sure we will be having conversations about your employer that is discriminating against you,
Hmm.
schools, airlines. This is going to be a time for you to learn. Education is one of my most important pillars. So we are, class is in session. And one more thing, John, before we dive in, and I want thumbs up, you guys. Is this incredible? Big kudos to John for being here. And I want to say the reason why it's Sprouts. Now, I don't even shop at Sprouts. There is a Sprouts around the corner from my house. And years ago, I went there. And I have to say, the store in my area, it's very dimly lit. It's kind of dingy. It has a smell like rotting food. I never liked it. I always felt depressed after I went shopping there. And I realized the whole environment had just seriously, it just, and I have Whole Foods around the corner, which is the opposite. It's brightly lit.
Hmm.
And I know it's owned by Amazon now, but it's
Yeah.
brightly lit. It used to have better selection before Amazon came in and kind of sanitized everything. But I don't shop at Sprouts. I don't even care for Sprouts. I would just rather go to, the corner grocery store. But here's what bothers me. Sprouts used to be more welcoming. And when this whole chaotic nonsense began, people told me, hey, Sprouts is no problem. I got in there, no problem. And they did a 180. They're the most
Yeah.
militant. They're the most destructive. They're the biggest violators. And and I want to hear what you think about this, John. I did a preemptory, like olive branch, where I reached out
Hmm.
my hand and I said,
Hmm.
hey, Sprouts, you may not realize you're breaking the law. So
Hmm.
let me show you what you have on your website and let me show you the law. And why don't you come out and
Hmm.
apologize and make amends? And then we'll all happily go shopping at your store. Why
Hmm.
not have some hours for us to go on our own so we don't have to be around all the
Yeah.
people living in fear? And not only did they not respond, and I had hundreds, probably thousands of healthy Americans. Give me a thumbs up if you guys wrote to Sprouts, if you sent an email or did a certified letter or went on the spot or got denied. Thousands of messages that were just completely ignored. So you're going
Wow.
to tell us
Okay.
what we did wrong, or well, we didn't do anything wrong. We put them on notice and we stirred the pot. We let them know that we were unhappy. And now you're going
Okay.
to elevate it to the next level. So I'm going to turn it over to you. That's why we're focusing on Sprouts. I don't want anybody
Yeah.
to lose their job. I'm not trying to put
Right.
Sprouts out of business. I'm in favor of people
Right.
earning a living. I want them to do it without breaking the law.
Yeah.
That's my standoff, and now I hand it off to you.
Well, thank you, Peggy. And here's the thing to remember. There's a lot of little phrases I'm going to give you. You have a right to rely upon the law. It's a simple concept. What is it? And we'll get into that. So, you here's what you want to do. You want to pick a fight and win it. And it's a fight. It's going to be a bit of a challenge, like you've seen. Now, I believe that it's not so much that you did something wrong with the Sprouts. I think there's an operating uniform motive, agenda, force, people, interest, let's call it a money interest behind everything we're seeing, everything that's interacting with people, okay, businesses and government agencies. And I think they're testing to see what we're going to do. And it's a smart business decision for most of the retailers like Walmart, Target, and grocery stores to just say, look, let's not harass these people. 99.9% of the people are going to wear masks, but Sprouts is going to be the bad boy. And let's see what happens. Let's see who's out there that's going to make us pay. I think that's what's going on. So, okay, fine. Like I tell them, bring it. Bring it. You want it? Fine. We know what to do. And, we might have to sue them. You want to put them on notice. You want to notify the chief counsel, which I believe you have his name. In fact, it's in our letters here. I mean,
Yeah.
if you go and look at the notes, and these are our notes, by the way, it's like 60 pages. I can slide on over there. I'm going to share the screen.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic. You guys, John did all this work. He loves it. John, you and I, we're cut from the same cloth. Somehow it's very satisfying to look to see what already has been created in terms of the law and let's have them
Hmm.
abide by it. So
Right.
yeah, I find this very satisfying.
Yeah, and there's so many holes in their scam that if they succeed at what they're doing, it's on us. There's no reason why they should prevail in this. Okay, the money interests that want us to get us to submit is what I call it. So here's the example of Sprouts. Can you guys see this? You can see this, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
basically, um, my whole focus is like even in the work I normally do, I don't like to bill by the hour because that is for my benefit. I wanna I wanna know that I can solve a person's problem, and that's what he's hiring me for, and I can do it in so much time, and it's going to be X dollars. And then if I don't solve it in that time, well then it's on me. And if I do, then great. It's what I promised. And if I bill by the hour, well, then it benefits me to keep on billing him, right? And I'm not going to solve his problem necessarily. So this is what we want to do. We want to solve the problem. We don't need to identify. I've talked to some people before where they have a certain problem, like a legal problem, and I find out that they really just want to be involved in it. Like their ego is now into the problem, and if the problem ends, they don't want it to end.
Yeah.
So be aware of that. Okay.
It's happening already. I call it people are like, don't take my virus away. They want to
Yeah.
be involved in something exciting that they're a part of that gives their life meaning. They're disappointed that the numbers aren't higher. So I think people can really relate to what you're saying.
Yeah, so don't get hooked into putting all your energy into this. Look at
Yeah,
it like you're sweeping the sidewalk, sweep it and move on with your life. So
love it.
that's what my motive here, my purpose is to show you, okay, let's just solve this thing. You want to document what's going on. So let's say we're talking about Sprouts, and you want to have an experience with going to Sprouts if that's what you want to do. Or like for me, I just don't go to Sprouts. I already have a case that I'm working on, but um, I picked a case somewhere else, but I don't shop there. I shop other places and no problem. And my only concern is that I can get food for my family. I don't care about Disney World. We can't go over there unless you get into the ritual, right? Uh, Universal Studios. I'm in Orlando, so we don't go there anymore. My children, are disappointed, but they understand. I'm not going to take on that fight. I'm only going to take on the most important things. It's kind of like being on a battlefield. You pick that spot and the line, and you just go through it, and that's how you get ground in a fight. And so you pick your fight, and you intend to win it. And so you document what's happening. So here's what you do: you go into the grocery store, you go into the retail place, and you do your thing, and to the point where you can't do it anymore, you walk in, and you should be able to get past the people that want you to wear a mask. It's illegal to stop you. It's illegal to block your path. It's illegal to touch you, to prevent you from continuing to
Hey,
walk.
hey, John, would you come off the screen share for a second?
Hmm.
I want people to see your face as you're telling them this because this
Okay.
is really important what you're and then we'll go back to the document, but people are asking already exactly this point. So if you could repeat that and everybody listen carefully. This is the first stage. Now, he already said, choose your battles. Like, I don't shop at Sprouts because I know, well, I already told you it smells bad, but I know that I can go to Ralph's. I'm not going to be hassled. I'm not going to purposely seek out stores where I'm going to be hassled. Some of you have the hassles everywhere. This is your battle. So, step number one, they're blocking your path. What do we do?
Okay. Now, did I get the screen share off? Because I'm not sure
Yeah, you're
if I
good.
did
You're
that.
good.
Oh,
You're
cool. Okay.
on screen. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, walking into any business that's open to the public, if you're restrained in any way, it's a crime. It's illegal. It's known as unlawful restraint or false imprisonment to prevent you from going somewhere. Even if you have the freedom to leave that area, your liberty of going into the store that's open to anyone else has been restrained against your will, and that's a crime. In fact, it's an offense for which you can be arrested. The person doing it can be arrested. Now, it even goes further than that. Someone who's wearing a mask and doing that to you is a different kind of crime. It just gets even worse. Now, I don't recommend like calling the police and making a big scene. I mean, you can if you want. I don't think that's really our solution. I think what we need to do is document it, and I think this is where we win. Understanding your right when you walk in the store, you should be able to walk in the store no matter what anybody says to you. Wear a mask, or you can't come in here, and you can ignore them and keep on walking. You don't have to tell them anything, okay? If they physically restrain you, that's another issue, okay? I haven't seen that yet. They might stand in front of you. I've seen that. I've got a case on that right now. I'm working. Um, but you go in the store, you do your shopping, and if what'll usually happen if they intend, like at Sprouts, if they intend to prevent you not provide services, deny services to you, you'll be informed of that. Okay, the store manager will approach you in the store. That's what happened to us. I went with a client that's local, and we went through the whole process. He did a great job, by the way. I just wanted to go there and see what it was like for myself. So he and I both got banned from Sprouts. So, anyways, so what we did was we took a couple of items, and we went to it was a big scene. I mean, the store manager was there and everybody was so terrified to even talk to us. And the little poor cashier, I felt so bad for her. And so we put our products down and she said, my manager said I can't sell this to you. And I said, are you you're denying me service because of a disability I have? And of course the manager jumped right and said, no, we're not doing that. It's just you won't comply with the law, that sort of thing. So I said, well, I just wanted to get confirmation that I'm being denied services because I have a disability. And I got his name. Okay, that's important too.
So you
And
say, I just want to confirm that I'm being denied services.
right. And
Okay.
one of the other things you want to do is get that admitted somehow. Have that discussion. I don't care
So
what they
that
say. If
so
they,
so that's what I came up with, John. I came up with
mhm,
a notice of discrimination, and it is what I call an incident report form. And
yeah,
it's not a legal
perfect.
document, but it's very satisfying. Many people have used it so far, and they have it on hand. It gives them confidence to walk in the store, also. And
Hmm.
then it basically is like, this is the date, this is the person's name, and if I don't have their name, this is what they look like, this is where it happened, this is the name of the store, here's what went on,
Yeah,
and then you can sign it, and you feel satisfied, like I'm not just going to throw up my hands and go home. And you can serve it to the person, you
sure.
can snap a photo of it, so you have a record and a document. So to me, the people that have, I haven't done it myself, I wish I'd done it at Southwest. The people who did it, they said they felt really like
Yeah,
empowered, and they weren't just being brushed off at, like, dirt. It's
yeah,
like, hey, I'm a human being and I have a right to free entry. You violated it, and
yeah,
I'm making a note of it, and I'm telling you about it.
yeah. Get
Okay.
them to say what they're doing,
Yeah.
acknowledge it in some way. Whether or not they want to be argumentative, it doesn't matter. And you are absolutely right on. You do an incident report, and that becomes an element in a what's called a cause of action. Now, I'm not saying you have to sue them. A cause of action means you can sue them. All I'm saying is if you have a recognizable cause of action because of your incident report, and you include a copy of that with a letter, like a 1/2 page letter to the CEO or to the chief counsel, this is an attorney now, and his job is to manage risk for the entire company. That's who figures out what the insurance rates and who makes deals with the insurance and who tells the store what its policy should be regarding spills. Okay, this is kind of like that, right? So you document it, you're halfway there. So you get the admission, but you also want to get the person who's responsible for that facility, for the premises at that time. Eh,
Oh.
You'd be surprised. Um, we went to Planet Obstacle recently, and my two little girls, we took them, and the cashier wanted us to wear masks, and so I said, "Okay, are you the manager for this facility right now?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "Are you responsible for the entire facility at this time?" And then he's like, said, "Yeah," because that means something to these people. And so I said, "Okay, so you're requiring a medical intervention of my daughters. So if I act upon your medical intervention and I have them wear a mask, like you're saying, and then they go and play, this is a like a zip line, trampoline type play place. If they go out and play, and you've not conducted any medical examination, so you don't know their medical history at all, nor are you competent because are you the physician on site? Is there a physician on site?" He's like, "Oh man." I said, "So let me ask you this: Are you willing to accept the responsibility and liability if one of my daughters collapses in an unconscious state? Do you have insurance for this?" And that was like I couldn't even finish that sentence before he just said, "Look, you guys don't have to do all that stuff. Here, come on over here." He was going to let us come in for free. And I said, I'll pay, but I just want to see where we are here with liability. I mean, what do we, what do we do? And he goes, "It's okay. It's okay. Here you guys go. Have a fun time." Next thing I know, all the kids in that place, except for a few, took their masks off, having a good time. Most of the parents took their masks off because they saw my family didn't have their masks on. So that's the kind of thing you want to do. So you bring the store manager over and you do it very politely. Um, you get that person to admit that he is responsible or she is responsible for that entire property. And then you get them to say, "Okay, are you denying me services now? And what's the reason?" It's because I'm unable to wear a mask or I'm unwilling because it violates my religious convictions. And no matter what, I mean, it doesn't matter what they say.
Right.
They're going to deny you the service. You're done. Then leave. You don't have to push it to where the police come.
Okay. Okay.
Now in this case, what we did the other day, the police did show up. I mean, the manager, I guess he was flustered and he called the police. So while he called the police, it was funny because we went outside and other customers had heard the conversation and they came out and they were saying, yeah, this is crazy. We shouldn't be doing this, you know? And so we were all talking in the parking lot and the police showed up and he
And which
drove
place was
over.
this at, John? Where
This,
was that?
this
Where
was
the
at Sprouts. This is, so I went with a client. He was, you know, in the our area and I said, hey, I know where that is. And I said, I'll meet you over there on, you know, Monday morning. And so
man.
we did this thing. But yeah, and so the cop drives over and he's kind of smiling and he goes, hey, are you the guys the manager called about? And I said, yeah. He goes, okay, well, have a nice day. You know, but
Oh man.
it's not necessary to call the police now. If the police are called, that is cause for more damages, which we'll get into in a second,
Okay.
because it's like exacerbating the situation unnecessarily. You didn't need to do that. There was no, and by the way, this is an important understanding. When a business is open to the public, it has its own policies. And Peggy is absolutely right on. Yeah, they can make their own policies, but they still have to be within the confines of the law. They can't run a, which they're trying to do, a demonic cult, right?
Yeah.
They can't, they can't make you take an aspirin or a line of cocaine as a condition to come into the store, right? They can't make those kinds of policies, obviously. Sure, you guys can make whatever policies you want, but you can't still break the law. You're not your own legislative body. Okay. All right.
Let me
So,
stop you right there for 1 second, John, because this is something that I got to put on a T-shirt, and we need to also educate law enforcement, because you would not believe how many videos I've seen of really well-intended people like healthy Americans that are like, yeah, I'm going to videotape what happens at Sprouts. The police come or the sheriff come, and they're usually very nice. There have been some episodes in Orange. You're in Orange County, Florida.
yeah,
We're in Orange County,
Florida, right?
California. How many police have I heard say, store policy, store policy? I never want to hear that again. But let me back up for one moment, because
Hmm.
people that are just tuning in, John Jay is a legal expert. He has been doing this, fighting for you for 30 years, helping people understand the law, the administrative aspect, which is what I love. I have always said we're going to take down this whole house of cards in the Al Capone method. And what does that mean? It means Al Capone was never arrested for racketeering or murder or any of that
Right.
stuff. He was arrested because of his tax evasion. It's basically a paperwork technicality. I don't want to
Hmm.
minimize what we're going
Yeah.
through, but what I mean is that we're going to use all of these laws that are on the books, and we're going to use them legally, lawfully to our advantage. And I need to just refresh for a moment. This is really important, everybody. Write this down. You'll also get it in the handouts. John, I have to, friends, bring the notice of discrimination with you wherever you're going out. I'm going to amend that to add the name of the manager. You're very
Hmm.
calm. You're
Hmm.
polite. You say, "Hey, I just want to make sure that that you are requiring a medical intervention. So, are you the physician on staff?" And they'll go,
Right.
"No," or they might not even answer you. And you'll say, "Well,
Right.
um, I, what I would like to do is I need to get the name of the can I
Hmm.
talk to the person who's in charge of the facility?" They come over, you
Hmm.
confirm. I just want to make sure that, so you're in charge of the entire
Hmm.
facility at this time. And they will either say yes or no. You get their name as well, and you say, I just want to see where we are here with liability, because you're requiring me or my kids to wear a mask. And, you know, you're not the doctor, you haven't examined them, so I want to make sure if something bad happens, do you have the liability to handle this, or something along this discussion. Don't blow it out of proportion.
Hmm.
The Hopefully it's not going to escalate to where the police come. If they deny you, you create that incident
Hmm.
report, which will be used when you are going to do the cause of action, which might be suing or might not.
Hmm.
The thing, if they call the police, that actually makes your case even stronger, because that was unnecessary force. It was an unnecessary
Hmm.
action. Don't lose your cool. I've said this every
Yeah.
single time. If you're being charged with trespassing and they ask you to leave, it's a good idea to leave.
Yeah.
I don't. I don't believe they should do that, but this is where it's going to go into more of the paperwork and the legal action. You don't want to be, you don't want to damage your stance by
Hmm.
being belligerent, by causing a public nuisance. And trust me, friends, I
Hmm.
know that you're in the right. I know I
Yeah.
stand for you, but you want to have the strongest case possible, or the strongest course of action possible. So in the old days, I said, and I still stand by it, if you were being harassed, if other people are harassing you, ramming their carts into yours, John, I had a healthy American who
Wow.
was being pelted with walnuts
Wow.
in the
That's
in the
assault.
bulk. It is
That
assault.
that
And
is
that's where you
assault.
call the sheriff and you say,
Well,
I am reporting a crime in progress. And that's what
okay.
I recommend.
An
So I'm
incident
going to
like
hand it
that.
over to you. I hand it over to
Okay.
you.
All
Yeah.
right, think of it like this, guys. Think of it like a slip and fall. Okay, that's exactly the liability that that property owner or manager has. Now, sometimes they're covered and sometimes they're not because there's an issue of negligence for which they would not be covered. And that would mean an example would be breaking the law and that resulting in uh, an injury. So here's an example. I walk into a store, a guy with a mask says, "You must wear a mask or you can't come in here," and he blocks my way. Okay, well, that's a crime right there because the moment I have a civil cause of action, I also have a criminal cause of action.
Explain that to me. I'm
If
so
you're
curious about that.
This is in Florida statutes. I believe it's
Okay.
687 or 681. I mean, I
Okay.
can show you, but basically you can look it up in your law in your
Yeah.
states too.
Yeah.
If you're wearing a mask, that's usually not a problem. Now, some jurisdictions, in some cases, it is a problem to wear a mask, or it used to be. If you're wearing a mask now and you do a certain thing, that is literally a crime, a second degree misdemeanor in Florida. Okay, so a person who's an employee of a business who's standing at the entrance and gets in your way and says you can't come in here unless you do a thing, whatever that is, that's a crime. That's a crime. It's also assault. Okay, I'm not saying, these people need to be prosecuted, but just realize what your rights are and what their obligations are and realize what the law is. That's why I want you to understand this part of it. When someone's like my wife is like 5 feet 1 inch, and you got these guys that are huge and that, they got the mask on and all this, and they're, my wife will tell me, she's like, "Oh, I felt so small. They're telling me you have to wear this mask." That is assault. When you feel intimidated and someone's wearing a mask and that person is the one who you feeling intimidated by, that's the definition of assault. That's a trespass on you. It's called a trespass to the person. So let's look at that because I know there's a lot of trespass issues, and let me explain about how that works. When you're walking into a retail place or a business that's open to the public, it is not a private membership association. It is not a private club. It's open to anybody, whoever you are, okay? Obviously you got to wear clothes, right? You can't, I mean, obviously there's some standards we have, okay? You have to have a shirt and shoes, right? So, but this other stuff doesn't apply. It is not trespass when you're in a public building and the manager tells you to leave for any reason. Now, I'll tell you this, it is not trespass, but if the cops come out and say, "Look, the manager said you have to leave, you have to leave." If you don't leave, then they can give you a trespass warning. They can make it to where you can never go back there unless you want to be arrested. They do that in Florida. So realize that's the reality of how it works. And that just has to do with how your state legislature wrote the language in the statute. I'm sorry to say. Uh, you can get out of that, but you got to argue the case. Okay. You got to be in court. I recommend avoiding that, but understand this. When you go into a store, you have an irrevocable license to be there. Why? Because it's open to the public. It's an irrevocable license. A license is the privilege of being there. The privilege was extended by all the investors and the store owners and managers that opened the business up and said, "Hey guys, come on in and buy our stuff." That's the privilege. Now, if I go over to my neighbor's house next door and open his front door and walk in there and open the fridge and get some, pudding or something, that I don't have a privilege for. You can shoot me for that, okay? I do not have a privilege to do that. But I do have a privilege to do that at Publix. I can walk in the store and do that sort of thing. So for someone to come along and intimidate you or impose illegal requirements or act in an unlawful way is trespass against you. You are not trespassing. Now, because you have an irrevocable license does not mean you can do anything you want. If you disrupt the business or you hassle people, right, make a scene, you have to really hassle people. I mean, if you call the manager over for help on something, that's not really harassing anybody, even though the manager may not want to talk to you. But because you have an irrevocable license, it's not trespass unless there is a violation, and that's a key word. So, for example, If someone calls the cops on you, the cops understand this part of it. Now they're trained differently. Sometimes you got to talk to them if you really want to. If you want to be in this situation, understand that you have an irrevocable license to be there. So if the cops show up, and let's say you're shopping and no one even approached you, and they just decide to call the cops on you, maybe you're in that situation. All right. So understand that if the police say, look, the manager called us and said that you're trespassing and he wants you to leave. And then your response would be something like, has there been a violation?
Okay. Got it.
And you'll watch how the police officer, he knows what that is. So depending on the, personality of the police officer, but you're not trying to persuade anybody. In my opinion, if it's me, I don't care. I'm not trying to win an argument with a cop. What I'm trying to do is document what's going on here. So I talked to Officer Jones on this date at this time. Apparently, the manager called the police on me while I was shopping. At the time, the store was open to the public, right? At the time, like they always are. And I asked the officer if he had evidence of any violation. And his response
I like
was,
it. Do you have any evidence of violation? I like
that's
that.
it.
Yeah.
Has there been a violation, or do you have evidence of a
Uh-huh.
violation? Am I
Okay.
being accused of violating the public peace, breaching the peace, harassing anyone? What type of violation is it, officer? Now, you're not trying to be flippant with him or anything. You literally want to know and see what his response is and make a record of this. You got to write it down, take a picture, whatever, do a voice recording on your phone, do something. Be careful about the phone though. They might say it's wiretapping. So
Well,
it's a
I'll add a
crazy world.
place. I'll add a place on the notice of violation that if law enforcement, I'll have a little box that says, note any law enforcement activity or something like that.
Has there been a violation? If
Okay.
there has been no violation, there is no trespass. There is no trespass unless there's a violation. Now, like back to what I just said, I know at Florida, and I read the case law here in Florida. I didn't spend the time on the other states, but it's probably similar to this. The cops can be called out and you can be removed for any reason or no reason, even if there's no violation. And if you want to challenge it, you can challenge it. There are causes of action that are civil. You can also challenge it. I mean, if you want to go the route of getting arrested, which I don't recommend, you could probably win the case, but I'm not sure you're actually winning the case if you do that because it's not necessary. It's a civil matter. But you can win on the fact that there's been no violation. And the judge might say to you, like, he might say, well, what's the problem? Why didn't you just leave? You're in the right, but why didn't you just leave? Why
That's
did
what
you
they
have to go?
say. Yeah.
They will say that, and I would
Yeah.
too if I was a judge. I've got a store right now. I could go in there right now and no problem without a mask. But a few months ago, we tried it, and it was the mask thing, and the person wouldn't let us in, right? Well, I'm not going to fight them. I don't care. I'll go to the next store. It's not the thing I need to do, right? My children are not starving right now.
Right.
We're fine. So we just sued them. Now, if I went back there and that was documented, the judge is going to say, well, you sued them and then you went back to the store. Why? You see? So you got to use your head a little bit and be rational. And just because you are right, don't act righteously. Yes, you're right, but just be patient. I know they're wrong, but you can be patient. It will work out better in the end. Okay. It might take a few months. And another reason why we're doing this is so that more people understand what's going on and understand how to articulate it. And if a lot of us do it in a particular area, I think that their experiment, if that's what this is, about sprouts, they might go, well, okay, well, that's not going to work because just 3 people led 15 people. Okay. And here's where we win, guys. I think it's about identifying to the organization the financial risk. It's not about like you see in the movies where you win a case, like civil action, you win a case or whatever, and the jury finds in your favor. It's not going to happen like that. It doesn't work that way. Almost most cases do not end up before a jury, and most cases in this country do not go to trial. I don't know if you're aware of that. Most cases are resolved in what's called summary judgment. So you document what's going on, you get the responsible people. If there's an issue of trespass, realize where there is a trespass. It's a trespass to the person if you're being threatened by or intimidated by, someone with a mask. It's an irrevocable license if you go into a place that's open to the public, and there has to be a violation before there's trespass. And what's interesting is um, there needs to be 2 witnesses. So maybe the cop would be a witness and the store manager, right?
Two witnesses to the violation of
to the
trespass, or just to
right.
the incident?
If there is a violation, there has to be two
Okay.
witnesses. You don't want to be a witness against yourself, is what I'm saying.
Okay, got it.
So by engaging in something that's disruptive, you become a witness against yourself. I mean, why do that, right?
Okay.
So just go there and, go through live your life and go through the process. And if you encounter this, understand what your rights are, and then document what's happening. And then you can take it to the responsible people. So the next level would be you leave the store. Now, a lot of these situations, like in a places providing services like a barber shop, it's different than a store because, you know, they'll tell me to wear a mask at a store, but I'll ignore them and I go in there and buy my stuff and they don't deny me services. There's only like one or two stores that'll do that, right? But in a barber shop, the barber could just say, I'm not going to cut your hair. It's not so easy, it's not like I'm picking up something off the shelf, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
in a case like that, you're going to have to, I mean, if you really like that place or whatever, like for my dentist, like Peggy did a great job with the dentist thing. I haven't tried that one yet, but I think that's the way to go. You talk to those people rationally, say like, I already took my temperature, or you talk to the dentist and say, look, man, I'm just going to walk down the hallway, or whatever. I'm not going to wear a mask. I feel like
Let,
it's the
let's
mark of the beast,
yeah, yeah,
whatever.
let's just let's stop there for a second,
Okay.
John, before we go ahead, because that's a question a lot of people have. And I want to just make clear to everybody, the reason we're talking about the masks is, and I've said it many times, it's not just about the mask. All right, this is
Yeah.
going to be that you will be denied entry if you don't have your, maybe if you're not tested, and if you don't have a vaccine. And so they are setting the stage. And I want to recap a little bit
Yeah.
before we move ahead what John said. This is a test case. This is like the
Mhm.
trial balloon. And somehow Sprouts either raised their hand, or were
Mhm.
selected or appointed to be the most militant um, of the retail grocery stores, because some are really easygoing. I've never been
Yeah.
denied in Ralph's. One sweet little girl the other day kind of was following me around. She looked so scared to tell me. And I said, oh, I just can't wear one. And she said, oh, okay, fine. And she
She's
walked
off the hook
away.
then.
So, she was off the hook. We know that they're being paid to enforce these unenforceable
Yeah.
laws. But the point is bigger than the mask. The point is that we are free human beings that have the free and equal access to not only these places of public accommodation, but to the courts, to the schools, to the health clinics, and then
Mhm.
you're talking about hair salons and dentists and all of that. So what I recommend is this, and I'm going through it with our local community swimming pool, which is open, and they want you to take the temperature. And I'm like, why do you want to take the first question I ask is, why do you want to take a temperature? And they say, well, we're following the guidelines. The guidelines aren't law. Yes, we know, but it's our duty to keep everyone safe. Oh, safety. I have an
Right.
idea to make it even more safe. Are you interested?
Right.
Oh, how do you make it more safe? You don't want me showing up if I have a fever, do you? No, that's why
Right.
we take your temperature. Well, how about if I take my own temperature at home, and if I have a fever, I won't show up? Wouldn't it be horrible if someone took my temperature and there I was standing in front of them with a fever, breathing on them? And they're like, they don't know what to
Exactly.
say. They don't know what to
Exactly.
say other than, well, okay, because you caught them on it. You're like, if you want to do this for safety, I will give you.
Right.
See, the thing is, I'm relentless like you are, John. I'm never going to give up. And if
Right.
they say this, I'm going to find that. And if they say do X, I'm going to say, well, what about Z? Because there was one of my proverbs, one of my own messages. There's always another way, and I'm going to find it. There's always another way. You're afraid about the temperature. How about, and if they're like, no, no, we have to see it. Well, I will take my own temperature with a thermometer that I bought at CVS, because I do not give you permission
Right.
to undertake a medical
That's
intervention with
right.
me. Now, it is a little tricky at the doctor. And I was thinking back to myself, the last time I went to a doctor was about a year ago. They did take my temperature, and they also took my blood pressure because I was at the doctor. All right. That to me is not as egregious as going to the dentist. So I called the dentist. I gave them the same song and
Mhm.
dance, and they said, oh, yeah, it totally makes sense. And one of them said,
Mhm.
why don't you just snap a picture on your phone? You can show me what your temperature is. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
what about women in menopause? What about a hot day? What
Yeah.
about if you have, some other infection or whatever? It's so ridiculous, and it's about your privacy. Now, I want to give one other example of medical care because, as you said, you're going to pick your battles. I had a very sweet young gal who said, "Peggy, I'm diabetic. I have to get my blood drawn. They're just not budging on the mask whatsoever." And I said, "Look, sweetie, if you have to get your blood drawn, what if you brought a tissue and you told them, if you're going to sneeze, you'll put it over your nose and mouth. That is not the hill to die on. But what I'm talking about
Right.
is, walking down the street in the middle of the day wearing a mask or trying to go to the post office. There's no reason you should wear a mask for that. But if this is life and death and you have to have a medical procedure and you can endure it for a few minutes, I am not, don't do it for me. It's your choice, your decision, and you have to decide what is the most important for you. Call in advance, be
Mm-hmm.
reasonable. I think one of the best things to offer is, what if I brought a tissue, and if I have to sneeze, I'll sneeze into the tissue. That will be more sanitary than me bringing around a mask. And I've heard of people that were all right with that they could just have a tissue on hand, and if they had to cough or sneeze, they would cough or sneeze in the tissue, like the old days, and
Absolutely.
then it's sanitary. So, friends, there's always another way. I took a brief
Yeah.
little detour here because we want to get right back on with John. And he was telling us, don't lose your cool, don't act righteously, even though you're in the right. You don't
Mm.
want to lose your patience because this is about the long game. And if you know, I mean, I'm astonished that people still email me and say, I just ran into Trader Joe's. I wanted to get this thing. And I'm like, where where have you been? You don't just run into Trader Joe's to get the thing anymore. Those days are over. You don't just like pop in the store to get something. No, you have to plan in advance. You have to know which stores are friendly. You
Right.
have to
It's
you have to call
crazy.
in advance. It's like those days of, oh, I was just going to run in. No, you're setting yourself up for a difficult time. So John is giving us the easy time. You know what, John, we have about 550 people listening. And
Okay.
and on YouTube, we're going to have, 5,000 people, if not 50,000. So you are helping so many people with your clear steps are just going to revolutionize going forward. And friends, I know that John and I will be back together again. He has been feeding me this info from the very get go. So he is as passionate as I am about justice, about fairness, about abiding by the law, and about not having your rights be trampled on. Everyone who's listening, we're not those that are giving our rights up freely. We're not the ones that are complying. There is a way to be
Mm-hmm.
defiant that will actually serve you. So here, let's listen more. You said document what's going on. You have an
Mm-hmm.
irrevocable license for a place of business. There has to be a violation of trespass.
Right.
Don't argue with the cop. This isn't the place to do it. And
Right.
you need two witnesses to
They
that
need to,
trespass. So here we go.
they need it to prosecute a case, but you're never going to get there because you just want to document everything and then get out of there. Yeah. Um, so if I could, let me just give you 30 seconds on something.
Oh, absolutely.
This is the really a fundamental understanding here. Um, what really gets me on this whole thing is the property rights issue that we're talking about here. Because yeah, they are testing to see how many people will give up their rights. These are property rights, okay? These are not constitutional rights. Get that out of your mind. You don't have constitutional rights, okay? The Constitution is supposed to restrain government. It doesn't give us rights. We had rights
Right.
like that before they had written laws. So, um, but yeah, if we don't stop this, and if we don't find those testing grounds like Sprouts, get them and put a stop to it now, they're going to conclude that their model is working, and all we need to do is spread it out now. So we need to jump on those, and that's why I'm doing this.
Tell
Um,
us, John, what are property rights
okay,
exactly? What's the
a property
definition?
right. Let me give you an example. Okay, this is where most of society is being taxed out of existence. It's through taxing people's intangible property rights. An intangible property right would include something like, I'm deciding what I'm going to wear today. That is a property right. Also, my right to for no one to hear a conversation I'm having with someone else unless I want them to. That's called a privacy right. Privacy is a property right. It doesn't come from a law. It's a human right. That's why we have all these well, there are written statutes like the Patient's Bill of Rights.
Yeah.
these are basically telling the insane people, okay, which are corporations, what rights people already have and what restrictions you have, you insane corporation. Because, by the way, corporations are defined as insane persons.
I love it. I've
Yeah,
got to emphasize and magnify this. Listen, friends, laws are not written to give you rights. Laws are written to restrict those from violating your
yeah,
rights.
exactly.
Okay, this is the most important thing to understand. And I know myself. I get very passionate, and I'll start mixing words and all of that. But I want everyone to understand that we have God-given rights. And I know people have the cards, and I even have cards. You don't even need cards. Okay,
No,
you're a
you don't.
human being. You have you have this irrevocable right to go to these places. And John is explaining property rights and privacy rights that we are born with. And these other Bill of Rights and things are to explain to others clearly so they understand where the line is and where they may not violate those rights. This is very, you know, kind of an advanced learning, which I think is very, very important. And then we're also going to have the nuts and bolts of
Mhm,
how to
yeah.
protect that. Yeah.
So I'm going to get into this, a couple other things to talk about how you
And I've
expose
got
the
all the
financial.
time in the world. Yeah,
Okay,
keep going.
super.
Yeah.
All right. But understand this part here. This is where people are not sure, and you need to be certain on this, I think, anyways. You need to understand where this is coming from. We're not just trying to cause trouble in society, and there's something else going on here, obviously. I think we can realize that. Um, Viruses are not contagious between people, anyways. Okay. The named virus COVID-19, that is not a virus. It doesn't exist. It's never been isolated. There is no documents on it. Now, someone has patented, I believe the CDC patented some genetic material that they modified and they called it COVID-19. I believe that that does it exist, but the human body has about 18 coronaviruses. The human body makes coronaviruses to clean itself. They do not travel in the air, and they're not in a place like Peggy said on the pool area. They're not in a place. You don't have to wipe everything down all the time. Why don't wash your hands with sanitizers? There's methanol in that. That'll kill you. About 75 to 90 brands have methanol in it. So that's the other part of this. COVID-19 is not a contagious virus, and viruses are not contagious between people. Bacteria are, but not viruses, okay? A virus is a cleaning agent. It's made by the human body. So
It's like
that's
saying, "Oh, we found that everybody has red blood cells." Yes, everyone has red blood cells if you're alive, and everyone has oxygen and potassium and calcium and all of that in your body. So it's also like the whole hoax with cholesterol. Cholesterol is one of the most important components of your cell membrane. When you take away cholesterol, you actually induce Alzheimer's. And I will
yeah,
tell you this because my dad
yeah.
died at the hands of medical terrorism. But the reason it's so
Mm,
important to explain all of this, friends, and John, we've
mhm.
got to have another conversation another time about the whole egregious concept of public health, which is ridiculous. There's
Yeah,
individual health, but
right.
I want everyone to understand that these there's a large and people that are following and listening know this. There is a larger agenda at work, and we have to be on our toes. We have to be on our toes about the science, about the medicine, about the social implications, and our focus today is really about the legal remedies. So first of all, we're laying down some of these premises. So please continue, John.
Okay, and there is something later I want to mention about that that does affect everyone. We'll get into. I made a note here,
Okay.
but okay. So I'll give you an example. So we can do this. We can do this with any place where you have a problem, any place of business where you're having this problem. You can do this with anyone. So there is always an intake form for the Department of Health. Now, the Department of Health is behind this scam, but the Department of Health is also supposed to police situations where people who are not authorized or licensed are giving medical advice.
I love
So,
it.
so it's going to be an interesting thing how this plays out. I'll give you a brief story here, but we went to Applebee's the other day. We couldn't sit down without wearing a mask. Of course, I'm not going to do that. I'll never do that. So we just called up. My wife just called up another Applebee's, and we went to the other one, and they were fine. But so I did the same thing I always do. I got the floor manager. In this case, this guy was actually the general manager, so great. Got him. got him to admit, yeah, you can't wear, so I documented all that. So here's what I did. I filed a complaint with the Department of Health on their own form, and I said there is an employee at, Applebee's restaurants who's requiring patrons to undertake a medical intervention as a condition of, patronizing the restaurant. So I fill out this form, sent to the DOH. They called me like a couple of days later, and she goes, "Oh yeah, so what's up with the complaint?" And I said, "Well, it concerns a restaurant." She goes, "Oh yeah, for that, well, you have to contact the Department of Business and Professional Regulation." Well, I already know that, and I already know who I'm supposed to be calling. I know all the issues, right? So I said, "Well, actually, this concerns Section 456.065." She goes, "Oh really?" I said, "Yeah. There's an individual at the store who's imposing, medical interventions as a condition for patronizing the restaurant." And she says, "Well, we definitely need to see all the facts on that. So let us review everything and we'll get back with you." So that's where that is now. So what's interesting is the DOH is behind pushing this. So is the Department of Business. They're probably doing that in your state too. It's not just the DOH; they're using other agencies. Um, and now they're supposed to prevent people from giving medical advice who are not trained and qualified, insured and licensed and all this stuff. You know why there's licensing is because in order to get licensing, you're affecting the public. You don't need a license to cut your grass, but you do need a license to advertise to cut grass for someone else. Okay. Because you're open to the public, because there's a risk to the public, there's a risk of injury. So licensing allows the governing body to regulate it. It also allows insurance carriers to gauge their risk because you've succeeded at getting a license, so therefore you must be insurable. It all works together. It really works well. Sometimes I don't like the licensing issues, but it does work, I think, pretty well as long as it's not abused. So when you have someone who's completely not licensed, who would never qualify for a license, who's engaging in this, it'd be like a person who's playing with fire at a daycare center. I mean, that's how insurance looks at it. So by filing a complaint with the Department of Health over violations of unlicensed practicing of medicine, also denying you informed consent um, in that situation is another legal violation. I don't know if it's like a unlicensed practice of medicine, but it is a legal violation in the medical area. And I'm sorry, informed consent requires that you be informed before you are given the chance to consent or not. Okay. So you cannot be informed of a medical procedure unless you're given all the pertinent information that's available to the physician. And get what I just said, to the physician who's going to consult with you. You cannot have informed consent unless there's a licensed physician. So a store manager, restaurant owner, not going to do it. So you're already denied informed consent along with the illegal medical intervention. Okay. I mean, that's a big issue. Informed consent, you can slam on that all day long. It's a big liability. So now you've got a person who has a particular license to engage in, they have permission to sell a thing to people in general, but they're engaged in this activity over here where there's another set of licensing that they don't have, and they don't have qualifications. Okay. The other issue is that they have no duty. A restaurant has no duty to protect the public. You want to point that out to them. This is another item you want to bring up to the attention of, and you'll see this in the letters here. You bring that to the attention of the risk manager, the chief counsel for the organization. They have no duty to protect the public, but yet they're acting in that capacity. Moreover, they don't just have zero duty to protect the public, they don't even have the capacity to protect the public. And that language I'm telling you right now
Okay.
comes from case law. You can go see the case law. And this is what judges have been saying for 50 years or 100 years. You have to have a duty to protect the public. You have to have the capacity to protect the public. That means you have to have the funding, the training, the equipment, and you have to be insured, really, and the qualifications to engage in that activity. If I saw a fire in my neighborhood, I couldn't just go over there and start trying to put it out. I mean, I probably could, but I really shouldn't. I'm not qualified. I don't know what happened. I don't understand all that stuff. I'm not a fireman. So that's why we have these restrictions. And somehow, I mean, even if there was a pandemic, the law still is the same. It doesn't repeal laws. They have a problem. You have the Department of Health that's supposed to police the unlicensed practice of medicine, yet they're pushing the unlicensed practice of medicine.
I love it. Yeah.
We
And
need
we're
to
going to have,
file many, many complaints, because here's what happens. You have an insurance liability for the one who's doing it for the entire business on that property. Again, it's like a slip and fall. It's maybe a little bit worse. But then you have a liability for your county and your state and probably your city, because that they have a liability for pushing this. They're part of it. And I don't know what that liability is yet, but we're gonna talk about how to address that too, because there you can take this to a bigger level. Um, then you have, okay, so now the civil liability, we get into the issue of, you have, okay, there's religious convictions that, you're not, you can't be denied services because of a religious conviction. You can't be denied services because of a disability. You can't if you're in a wheelchair or whatever. Okay, so we all know that you have your different state laws, and of course they're actionable. There's a private right of action, which means you can sue into that particular statute. So like in California, like Peggy's talking about, it's California Civil Code 51. We have one here. It's a Florida statute, chapter 760, almost word for word. And you can literally sue under that. The way you sue, though, is you don't just sue somebody. You have to document it, and then you have to try to work it out. So you got to send them a letter and say, hey, guys, you messed up. I'll give you a chance to fix it. Let's work this out. But you also need to send a letter to the administrative agency that is supposed to oversee this type of violation. Normally, it's like the Human Rights Commission, and you'll see my example here in these notes.
Hmm.
So there's a letter here. Let me see if I can scroll down. I didn't do a screen share. I can do a screen share if you want, but so like at the Sprouts example, we can bring in the state agency that's supposed to deal with this. Let me just flip over. Okay, it's on page
Yeah,
9.
yeah,
Do you guys have?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Go
okay.
ahead and do the screen share if you like there,
Okay.
John. So this is
So yeah.
this is so rich. This is just um,
Yeah, so basically in my state, it happens to be this agency.
okay.
They have an agency for everything. It's kind of great because if you do it right, I mean, if you state your case properly, you're probably going to get the remedy you want without going to court. They don't want to go to court. I mean, they don't want to go to court any more than you do because it's expensive, and for them, it's really expensive. If you go to court by yourself, you might pay like $500 in filing fees or something over a period of a year. For those guys, literally, it's like $50,000. And as much as I don't like to, sometimes I win just because of the cost of litigation. I really would like to win on the merits, but this will work in our favor. So you present it like this. So here's my general statement here. I went and got their their own policies. Okay. I copied the pertinent sections
Love
here.
it. Love it.
Yeah, and this was Peggy's idea. So then
It's
I've got,
just so satisfying.
yeah. I mean, in fact, I had printed when I went to Sprouts. I printed every single page in color in a binder. It was so fun. I mean, if you have to do this, you have to do this. Let's do it, right? So it was
Yeah.
fun. It was empowering. I would go in there with the binder. That store manager runs over. I said, we had this conversation. I go, okay, so you guys have a policy about mask wearing? He goes, yeah. I said, can you show me which page it is? And he was
Love it.
like, he couldn't believe that I had, So he goes, well, it's not in there. I said, well, then do you have other, like, is this an updated one or do you have an updated? Can I see your updated one? So he
Love it.
goes to and comes back with a piece of paper. He's waving this
Yeah.
piece of
Yeah.
paper, black and white, and it says, like, all customers must wear a mask.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah,
Exactly.
okay, all right. I mean, really, okay, I have to take it at face value. I'm not going to criticize the guy. So I said, okay. So then I asked him just to be interested. I'm just interested. So
Yeah.
so this says that. So this is your policy, but then this part of your policy says that you have to respect these issues, you know, which are here. And of course, he
Yeah.
didn't respond to that. I didn't want to argue with the guy, but
Yeah.
um, so this will come up. This is going to come up, and it's their own thing. So my thinking is, why not bring a case against him, not for violating your civil rights? I mean, we all know you have civil rights and stuff like that, but why not get an injunction against them for something that they already admit to? Why not bring a case where there really shouldn't be a dispute once the store sees the case and the case is, I'm just suing you so that y'all have to comply with your own policy.
Yeah.
So what are they going to say? That's not our policy. We have a different policy, a secret policy. If you have a secret policy, that's not a store policy. It has to be public because you're open to the public. Just like the what is it called? The vaccine court
Yeah.
or the FISA court. Okay, those are not courts, even though they call them courts because they're secret. So there is no such thing as a secret court. So there's no such thing as an unwritten or secret policy when it comes to issues like this. So if you sue them for an injunction against violating their own policy, that incorporates all the laws they're supposed to follow, and it makes it into one single issue, which allows you the chance to win on summary judgment. Summary judgment says to the judge, hey, judge, you know what? They've already admitted that they have this certain policy and they've already admitted that they violated it. So I just want a summary judgment because there's no controversy here.
Love it.
Yeah.
And,
Now
and the
you
and
avoid
the
time and yeah.
yeah, and to confirm, John, an injunction means that they will stop doing this action. That's what an injunction is, right? That
Yeah, it
they will.
enjoins them from breaking their own policy, from
Okay,
violating their own policy. So the court would order them to comply with their own policy.
love it.
Yeah, that's it. It's that
That's it.
simple. You're not, and don't ask for money. I mean, you can. I would recommend not.
Yeah,
I don't think you should. I think
yeah.
you should just get what's called equitable relief, which is an injunction. And I think you can do it within 90 days. We'll see. I'm about to file this one. So we're
Okay.
actually gonna file one in against Sprouts.
And is it the one where you brought the handbook and you showed him? Did he
Yeah.
let you? Okay, I love
Why?
it.
That's why I did it. I was like, hey, I'm in. I'll meet you down Monday. I want to document everything. I
Perfect.
thought we were going to be able to get out of there with our groceries. I was going to get
Yeah.
some black cherry juice and stuff for breakfast. I couldn't do that. But anyway, so now we have a perfect case. It's got all the facts, I think, anyways. And the case is basically what you're seeing here. I just took that case, and stripped it out a little bit. So, um, yeah, so here we go. Department of Health. Okay, so I took the central argument after you identify the parties involved in the date and everything. This is what I told them. Okay,
Love it.
very important stuff. And he never reviewed medical records, no exam. There was no informed consent, no possibility of informed consent, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I
Yeah.
mean, it's illegal all the way around. Now, the one thing I want to get into next. So you got the Human Rights Commission or whatever that is in your state. Send your letter there, articulate the thing, use my letter, use the language. That is what you do when you send the company the pre-suit mediation notice, the letter that says, hey, I was just at your store and you did this thing and it was wrong, I thought, and I'm sending this letter to see if you can work this out, and send it to the chief counsel and to the store manager, and then send your report to the Department of Health and send a letter to the Human Rights Commission, your state agency. My recommendation on that is that you don't let the chief counsel of the organization or the store manager know that you're complaining to the state, like the Department of Health. Don't let them know that, because I think it's in your interest that you want them to make a decision quickly. And if they see that you've did a complaint to a state agency, the attorney might just say, I'm going to wait and see what happens there. Because a lot of them are afraid to make a decision. So I want them to make a decision as quickly as possible. And in the background, I'm going to file these complaints where I can, these letters. Okay. The other health issue is that, I mean, as it has been demonstrated, I mean, you guys can look at this through the internet. You'll see where people have been measuring the oxygen levels in the
Yeah.
mask wearing. Yeah, and there's a letter back from 2007 that was sent to OSHA, and its enforcement officer, I think, and he was talking about the actual science behind a particular regulation, which I've mentioned here. So this is an OSHA reg that covers the process by which an employer or organization would make someone wear a mask on site. There's certain precautions that have to be taken. A physician has to be involved, and the person being told to wear a mask has to give his consent. Even then, you still can't make someone wear a mask.
No,
Okay?
that's the whole thing. It's exactly what you've said, John. They are testing us. They've seen
Yeah.
that people are compliant. They're doubling down. It's just like California is one of the test states
Hmm.
for the nation, like Hawaii is, and
Right.
New York and Oregon, a couple others. They want to see, and the other thing is they also, this is all written down too. They have told us that they're going to use test cases, that they're going to see who's compliant and who is
Yeah.
going to push back. So all of that is in writing. And the beauty of this is, even with all of these regulations, and California is a leader in regulations, it's like, well, you made the bed, you've given
Yeah.
us all of this,
Yeah, they have.
and
Yeah.
your idea of filing the violation with the health department is brilliant, because they
Yeah.
are the very ones who are
Hmm.
supposedly giving out the, and we know these are just guidelines, and I believe that some of these health officers are going to start backpedaling, or they're resigning. We've seen many, the state Department of Health director resigned in California. I think it was Ohio, Connecticut, Oregon. Colorado, they've been falling like dominoes. And people, please,
Hmm.
Healthy
Yeah.
Americans, would you drop a comment or do the research for me? In your state, how many state and county health officers have resigned,
Hmm.
have just been appointed? Many of these realize, some of them that are the bit players, like they're not, because they're all puppets. But
Hmm.
when they realize they're placeholders and they're like, I actually don't want to go to prison for
That's
fraud,
right. And that's coming.
they start resigning. We're
This is
seeing it.
serious. These guys are going down. I just reported every member of my city council here for disaster fraud. We can
And
get
would you
into that
show us?
too.
Yeah, show us
Yeah.
that also, John. So, friends, I also
Yeah.
want to say, I will have all of these documents at the Healthy American. Give me a day or two, because John has been beyond generous with creating this. He is doing these notices. He's showing us how we never actually have to go to court or have an attorney. This is empowerment. It's education. And the reason why it's so important, and I hope everyone's going to watch this video 2 or 3 times, these are the tools that you will use going forward. You're going to use this against vaccinations. You're going to
Yeah.
use this against contact tracing. You're going to use this against testing. You can use it at your workplace. Somebody asked, here's a great question. What about the courts who require you to wear a
Okay.
mask inside the courtroom?
I have something. I mean, we could spend hours. I
I
have
know, I know. So
exactly.
perfect.
I mean, we could talk about, if you want to, I mean,
Well,
I'm
we'll
ready. We can,
we'll
yeah.
definitely do another show. But I want everybody to understand very carefully and clearly that, and please, um, really roll up your sleeves and dig into this before you ask us for help. We are here. I have, there's tens of thousands of you, which is awesome. And we literally get thousands of requests daily and weekly. So please roll up your sleeves and dig into it as much as you can. We'll have the information here. It's better if you learn how to do it, and definitely we'll fill in the blanks for you where needed. But this is empowering for you. It's the long game. You're not going to get results tomorrow. It's kind of like going on the crash diet, right? You might lose a couple of pounds for the weekend, but you want to have these tools going forward. You want to understand property rights and privacy rights and your irrevocable rights and the place of public accommodation. This may be new for some of you that are new to the Healthy American. Many videos that are educationally based. For those of you that are like, Peggy, I've got something tomorrow and I can't wait. I do have private consultations that you do invest in, because I get thousands of requests, and this is a way that I can help sift through those. And then what I learn can help others. But let me turn it back over to you, John. I'm
Okay.
just
Thanks.
looking at the comments. We've got lots of questions. So let me
And
turn it back to you. Yeah.
one note on the court thing, just real quick, and I'll move on to this. The chief judge is the person that's responsible for the courthouse,
Okay.
and you want to, in advance, send a letter to the chief judge and let him know that he's accepting liability and responsibility. And then I have a whole list of things that he's going to be liable for, and you just put him on notice. You don't need his consent at all. You just tell him. And so, well, we can get into that more.
Brilliant,
Um,
brilliant,
yeah.
brilliant.
So this is a safety regulation. Okay, now OSHA spent decades since 1970 establishing all the science behind keeping workers safe, mostly, and that has to do with wearing equipment that would restrict airflow or oxygen intake. Immediately when you put a mask on, immediately it violates OSHA safety regulations the moment you put it on. And the longer you keep it on, you increase the chance of you getting bacterial infections like pleurisy, Legionnaire's disease, and Staphylococcus. You're going to see a lot of people with kind of like welts or whatever, or infections on their face. You're going to see that more and more. Uh, so I hate to say, but um, this in itself is a safety violation. So imagine if you file a complaint with the DOH for them purportedly requiring people to violate health and safety laws, and they're in charge of health and safety. Who's above the Department of Health? More than likely, it's going to be your state attorney general's office. And that's the person that prosecutes people for crimes. That's the person that would prosecute somebody for like dumping toxic waste or polluting the water, things like that. So your next step up is the AG's office. And we're not going to have to get into that, but I'm just saying this, I think, is coming. But right now, you need to document what's going on, and you need to notify the DOH. I mean, all of us on this call can probably right now file 10 of these this week. Just go to your state DOH, Look for unlicensed practice of medicine, download the form, fill it out, fill it out, fill it out, mail it in. Just flood them with it.
And that's
Use
going to
these.
go against, Sprouts and the
Yeah.
swimming pool manager and your, again, we're not out to put anybody out of business. It's the
Hmm.
opposite. We want to keep people in business. You can do these same approaches with your local hair salon, with your dentist, with the guy that fixes your car. By and large, these aren't the ones that are making waves, that are rocking the boat. They're afraid. And I'm doing business events online for you small business owners that are like, hey, I own a hair salon. I thought I had to do this. We're not out to put you out of business. We're not trying to report you to the Department of Health. It's the opposite. We're trying to get the Department of Health to stop breathing down your neck. So we're looking at these larger corporations that
Hmm.
have legal counsel that we're going to put on notice to say, look, you're violating all of these things. And we want you to we want you to cease and desist. We want you to
Hmm.
do this injunction where you're going to stop violating it, or like I at least admit you're a hypocrite.
Well, they're going to pay. It's all about the money. So there's
Perfect. So
huge
here we
liability.
go. Now we're into the meat
Yeah.
and potatoes. We'll keep going, John, for about 15 minutes, which will give us
Okay.
a 90-minute presentation, and then we definitely need to follow up with a couple of more targeted action steps. And I think this will be homework for folks that can, some of this may be new to them who have not, most people don't have the level of knowledge that you do. So we're into the heart of the matter now, friends. This is the actual form that you're going to be sending to Sprouts or amend it for different businesses. So here you go, John, take it away.
Okay, thanks. And I'm going to go through this quickly because there's some things I want to cover. Obviously, here's the injunction. Now, this is kind of technical, but basically, I've explained what this is all about, how it works. It's just a way to communicate. What you're doing is making a public record, and you're going to allow the court to give you the remedy that you're asking for. And this is the way you do it. Look at the court as just another public facility. Don't be afraid of it. You created it, it's for you. Okay, you're not imposing on anyone. So we can use the court. The rules are online. I mean, I can help you. I've done, 90% of the work work here. All you gotta do is fill in the blanks, put in your story, you know, here's your story, statements of fact and so forth. Okay. That's if you have to do it. Now, before you even file in the court, I would even write this thing up as if I'm gonna file it, and I would mail it as a follow-up to the chief counsel and say, are you serious? Do you want to do this? And give them a few weeks to respond. Okay. Um, I'm going to get to the nursing home thing too because I did the research on that, and I think that a lot
Oh,
of people want to hear
awesome.
that. The one thing I went to my mechanic recently, and he was doing the mask thing, and you couldn't go in the building and all that. I said, hey, what's going on? What do you guys do? And he goes, well, we have to do this, or insurance will cancel us. The insurance companies are doing it. So I gave it some thought, and I was like, well, okay, so if your insurance company says you have to pay more money or do another thing, then they must have identified some new risk, okay? Because that's what they're about, right? So I wrote up a letter for him, and it's in. We'll get to this later, but I said, why don't you send this letter to your insurance company and ask them what risk has changed, where have the actuarials been amended? The actuarials are what the insurance company bases risk on. Someone collects statistics for years and years and years, and then they go, oh look, here's a trend here. Let's gauge it this way and let's price it this way, and then we'll accept risk under these terms, right? Well, ask them what's changed and what new benefits am I getting? What new services am I eligible for now that we're doing these changes, right? So
And
they never,
they would have had
yeah,
to sign a new contract, wouldn't they?
absolutely. Well, possibly. I mean, it's a policy, so
Okay.
they have to tell you what has changed in your policy. So can I see the new updated policy, right?
Okay. Okay.
So
I
I
love
wrote the
it. Yeah.
letter, but they didn't send it because they're afraid. I asked them again. They're like, oh, we didn't send it. But anyways, we'll get into that later. I just want to mention that in passing. So we get into this again. So now we've documented, like you said, like this incident report. We bring this case. You see, we get into this issue. We're showing how they're violating their policies and actually violating the law. And then we're asking the court. We're saying, hey, this is grounds for, they're reckless. They already have a policy. We just want them to comply with their own policy. That's it. And since they already have a written policy, there shouldn't be a dispute. And therefore, bam, I should get my injunction, at least a temporary injunction. And there's some technical issues too. We can talk more about that, like bond requirements. I mean, they might they might come back and say you haven't posted a bond or something. I don't know. You can get around that. Don't be intimidated though. Um, And this is an actual case, so you can see I haven't put some of the exhibits, but you can see I'm demonstrating like I just got this off the internet. I mean, you know, come on, guys. If I had a T-shirt with this on it, would that say
Yeah.
a lot? I mean,
Yeah.
I've got a T-shirt on right now. It's I don't know if you can see it
Oh, yeah.
because
Love
I
it.
called a theatrical production.
I just love it.
So COVID-19 playing at a theater near you. All right.
Fantastic.
So now, okay, if we could, let's go to nursing homes because I know a lot of people it's really impacting their lives. So go and look at your state statutes regarding um, child protective services, children
And
and families.
yeah, and friends,
Okay.
I have a link on the Healthy American to a link to all of your state laws. So
Oh, great.
it's Justia Law or Justia
Hmm.
Law, and then you can click through to your states. Now, sometimes those links are broken. I'm not responsible for that, but I do have all of that under laws and legal. Um, I don't know, John. You and I guess we had a missed calling of being a lawyer, although I never really because
No.
I love justice and fairness and all of this,
Yeah.
and I got my degree in political science. I wanted to be a lawyer, and then I realized I didn't like all the shady business, but this is what I
Right.
like. I actually like
Yeah.
learning the law. I like learning about
Yeah.
our protections. And so you have ways, friends, of finding the statutes in your state, which are your
Yeah.
laws that were passed by your legislature.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're specifically, especially in Florida, because we have, the New Yorkers coming down here. So we have nursing home abuse statutes, and the agency that deals with it is the Department of Children and Families. So there's two sets of statutes. We got public health and social welfare. It has to do with resident Bill of Rights. So this is really cool because I mean they violate almost every single one. That's what I'm saying. There's no reason why we should lose this stuff. I mean, look at this. The right to religious
Yeah.
liberties, uncensored communication,
And, and,
visitation.
and John, let me ask you this because there are also federal civil rights
Yeah,
called uh,
yeah,
civil rights for it sounds like incarcerated, but it's a different word for institutionalized persons. It's called
yeah.
CRIF.
Okay.
Um,
Yep.
would that be in a different? Well, I know we're not going to court yet. This is just putting people on notice. But
Well,
the
it's a
fact is,
different.
there are federal laws, there are state
Yeah.
laws on all of this.
Yeah, the federal laws would be under the Department of Health and Human Services. You'll find this. I mean,
Okay.
your federal statutes are in what's called the United States Code,
Yeah.
and in like Washington would be the Revised Code of Washington. California is like California Civil Code,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Florida is Florida statutes. You'll find it.
Yeah.
Just Google it. You Google any of these phrases you see here. You
Yeah.
Google this,
With
you'll
your
get it.
state name. Yeah.
Yeah, put your state name. But look, I mean, they hit all of it. I mean, imagine you have a right to meet with your family, you know, be informed. It goes on and on. You could
Wow.
select whatever. You don't even have to take medical advice you're given. You know, I mean, there's no reason. It's so easy to document this. So you call up the nursing home and they're saying you can't see your mom and she's 87, but you can talk to her on Skype. No, that's not acceptable.
Yeah.
I'm going to be there during your normal hours. I'll be over there. And then if they don't let you, then you do the same thing. You document everything, and then you go to your state agency. And again, it's one of those forms. You file a report or complaint with the Department of Children and Families. Okay, like here in Florida, it's probably the same in your state. We have the two sections, right? So this happens to be uh, public health, section 400. Okay, residents in nursing homes, and then you have another section um, that is a little more detailed. Okay, your resident bill of rights, and this one was quite lengthy, but I went and put everything in there. But again, you can go look this up yourself. So then what do? You find out what violations are being done, list them all, get the names of the manager, get a copy of their policy, the nursing home, and you want to find the agency and you want to file a report. Now, here's the thing: people might say, and I'll give you a little trick that I just did on this one case, but they're going to talk about there's a pandemic and we have to do this thing. Oh, there's a pandemic and we have to break the law. Oh, there's a pandemic and we have to rob your house. Oh, there's a pandemic and we have to kill your dog. No, you don't get to do those things. Even if there is a pandemic, you still have to follow the law. Even during the Civil War, they had to follow the law. We still had laws. So one of the things I did when I brought a case against one of the grocery stores was I just said I looked at it like it was from the year 2010. And I just said, hey, this is crazy. These people tell me I have to wear this mask and join their cult as a condition of going in the grocery store. I called a muzzle in the
Yeah.
pleading. And I didn't talk at all about any viruses or
Yeah.
pandemics or
Yeah.
nothing like that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because whatever you say in the complaint, you have to prove, right? So I knew what would happen. The attorney doesn't know anything. He's just watching the news like most people, and he writes back and says, "Hey, I want this complaint dismissed because yeah, we did that, but there's a pandemic and stuff." So I said, "Thank you very much," and I wrote back and I said, "Okay, so where's the pandemic?"
Now the burden of proof is on him.
That's right.
Yeah.
So all I want to do is get past the motion to dismiss, and once I do that, he's gonna call me up and say, "What's going to take to make this go away?" And I'm going to say, "Be polite to my wife, and don't intimidate her when she walks in your store and she's not wearing a mask." That's it. I already told him that twice. He's like, "I'm gonna just fight this." And I think a lot of times, just keep this in mind. Attorneys just want billable hours. I mean, they have no connection to anything really. So a case like this, he's just saying, "Well, how can I rack up 15 hours on this case?" That's all he's doing. I mean, we probably would have won it already. He would have said, "Man, I would have dismissed the case." But again, he just wants his billable hours. So anyways, so you get through all the statutes that pertain to the nursing home, and you go to your agency. Okay, that's where I'm gonna I'm gonna say I think you're done. Okay, this is it. But if you have to go to court, this is where there are what's called pleading requirements. If you have to go there, I doubt you're going to. This is what you have to say to the judge. You have to put these one, two, three, four in there. That language. Then you have to put behind each one, you have to put the supporting facts. This is called the elements of the pleading. It has to be adequately pled. And if the other party files a motion to dismiss, you can file an amendment. Like a lot of times the attorney will file. This is hopefully, I'm saying this so that hopefully you're not going to be intimidated by this. If the attorney writes back and asks that your case be dismissed, he has to admit everything. That's the only condition. If he asks the case to be dismissed against his client, that you're suing the store, he has to admit everything you're saying, and he has to give a reason why it should still be dismissed. And so one of the reasons is he'll say, "You didn't plead this correctly." Well, thank you very much. I'll go correct that and file an amended version.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we use the attorneys to help push the case along because they have to tell you what's wrong with the pleading and you can go correct it. So what you do is you call it an amended pleading, and then you add in the missing information that the attorney just complained about, and then you send it to the court, and you then ask the court, "I'm asking permission to amend the pleading. Here's a copy of the pleading. I've already served it on the defendant," and the judge will accept it. They have to accept it the first time. I've seen people amend pleadings like 5 times, but you're not going to have to do that. So don't worry about messing this up. Okay, if you have to go to court. But like we're talking about, I mean, we can go on for a long time, but collect your records, understand the issues, your property rights, and then know who to deal with first. And lots of times I think you're going to get it resolved with a well-written complaint to the chief counsel and or a government agency, even if it's the one pushing the problem. I think they're still going to have to solve it.
I love it. John,
Yeah.
take us off screen share, would you
Yeah.
please, for now, because
Yeah.
what you're saying is very important. I want people to understand this. Friends, John has given us like a 60-page document with all of the how-tos, with sample letters for Sprouts, for the nursing home. And the bottom line is this: you have rights that are protected by the law. The laws don't give you rights. The laws are restraints against those that seek to violate your rights. We are learning now how to put these establishments on notice, how to actually file against them with these documents. We've noted everything. We're going to submit it to the chief counsel. And I think we can do the same thing for the nursing home. That can go either to the and some of these are smaller group homes and things, but this needs to go to the highest individual who's responsible.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully it doesn't go to court. We want the resolution, not of money, but we want the relief to be that they stop harassing us, that they stop violating our rights. And I know sometimes it's easy for people to project far in advance. Well, what if this happens? What if that? Let's not go there.
Right.
we don't, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Right.
All you need to do now is watch this video again. um, I will have, give me, if you're watching this live, give me a little time to get this up on the website where you can download it. John is making this available for free because he is as passionate about truth and freedom and law and liberty and life and justice as you all are. This is the long game. This is not something that's going to happen. Actually, I'm going to retract that. The things that he gave us about having our irrevocable right to be in a place of business, the questions that you're going to ask of these individuals who are acting as doctors. I also want to throw in the law enforcement. We could add as a complaint, like, can I see your badge, deputy? Because you're trying to enforce the law, and
Right.
just to add a little bit more fuel there. But what the word of encouragement I want to give to everybody is this: there are remedies, and we want to do them in a rational, clear-headed manner. I say all hands on deck. There are
Hmm.
many approaches. Some people are protesting on the front lawn of public servants to, make their presence known.
Hmm.
Many people are going to these board of supervisor meetings. These are all valid. These are all approaches. We need all of the approaches. So step by step, you print this out. And I want to acknowledge Nari, one of the Healthy Americans, said she is going to hold a filing party at her
Yeah.
house.
Great
And
idea.
everyone's going to get online and they're all going to
Yes.
print out and file these Department of Health violations
Yes.
on these stores that are acting as unlicensed doctors, taking your temperature, wanting to. Now, it's a
Right.
little bit trickier if you're going to LabCorp to get your blood drawn because you are in a medical setting. So maybe we'll cover that another time. But we're talking about, going to get your car fixed, going to the vet.
Hmm.
Hopefully, these smaller businesses, you'll be able to call in advance. He gave you remedies about getting into court without a mask. I call them demonic devices and muzzles and all of that. And I want to make something very, very clear. A very common question you've already answered. I want to reinforce: no state of emergency, no pandemic, no scamdemic, no asteroid hitting the earth, no earthquake, no engineered weather event, none. Yes, I said it. None of the people think I'm not on. They're like, Peggy, why don't you read? Friends, I've been doing this a long, long time. I've been under the radar. I'm out in the
Uh-huh.
open now, but I'm aware of all this stuff. Listen, none of that has can suspend legally, can lawfully suspend established law. They will tell you it can, and it's
Hmm.
completely unlawful. The state of emergency has nothing to do with you. The state of
Hmm.
emergency is directed toward the agencies. The state of
Hmm.
emergency says that policemen and fire departments in Orange County, California can go up to San Francisco, and that the people who work in the hospitals in Bakersfield can go over to Riverside. That's what a state of emergency does. It's mutual aid between the counties and municipalities of a state. Period. All of this: close your business, stay
Hmm.
home, stand apart, stand on the circle, zero validity.
Right.
They sent up a trial balloon to see who would
Hmm.
comply. It's astonishing to all of us listening how many people complied willingly, eagerly, giddily, excitedly that
Yeah.
they're a part of something big. But I'm here to say two other things. No store may enforce a policy that violates the law, period. That doesn't exist.
Exactly.
We got
Yep.
to put that on the t-shirt as well. No state of emergency suspends the law, period. No executive order has anything to do with you
Right.
unless you work in the executive branch of government. So if
Right.
you work for the DMV and the governor says we're going to shorten your hours, yeah, that's going to affect you because you're in
Right.
the executive branch of government.
Yep.
But if you're just a regular, like we the people, living here in your state, a resident of your state, none of that applies to you. Don't let them bamboozle you, hoodwink you, and snooker you. Those are my new favorite words. So last few minutes are yours, John. We're going to do this again,
Thanks.
you guys. I think we need to
Yeah.
do more of our legal, roll up the sleeves and do our legal education. John wants to empower. He's as tired of this nonsense as we all are. He wants to empower you. He wants thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of these complaints to go to these uh, individuals and the legal counsel and the
Let me
Department
share
of Health.
something
Yeah,
with you.
go right ahead.
I've done this before, and I'm not saying I'm some great person. I'm just saying this worked
You
back
are a
in,
great person.
well, okay, but I'm just saying it just worked this way. So in 2004 to 2007, somewhere in that period, there was a law firm in, it was Wolpoff and Abramson, and they were promoting adding, it was that law firm, and they were adding, it was in California probably, they were adding binding arbitration clauses to credit card agreements, which allowed the banks to bypass the court system and get a judgment against people and just take their money. They didn't even have access to the court then. So when I saw that, I was like, oh man, I don't know how to fight that. And I pulled the research on the case law, and I was like, whoa, that's pretty slick. But see, they're so greedy that they were promoting it, and that's illegal. You can't promote that legal procedure. And also it's, so anyways, but I couldn't address it in the court. It was too expensive, and I couldn't get, the average consumer to deal with it. Because, so here's what I did. I created a business model, a whole plan, and I exported it to people. There were 9 businesses formed from this. And here's what we did. The business model was an arbitration service. When you have a dispute with your credit card company, you go to this business and you do the same thing they're doing. We use their rules. We got awards against Citibank, Bank of America, all the banks. We got thousands of awards. See, this is where it works. All these people did this. Now we got tens of millions of dollars of claims against all the banks. It ended in California, and I forget what county it was. This is like in 2007. Someone had brought in one of these 9 businesses, which I did not have a piece of. In fact, this upset the bank so much, especially Citibank, that they hunted me down, and they served my mother and my neighbor. They couldn't even find me. They served my family and my neighbor a summons to appear to deposition, and it took all day. They did a video record of it just to intimidate me. And so I hired the best criminal defense attorney, because it had nothing to do with crimes. It was like, hey, I'm going to make this dramatic. Let's have the best attorney in town. And he just had a laugh. He's like, I can't believe you got these guys all riled up. But here's what happened. The last wave of this, we took in like 1,000 awards to get confirmed in the court. And the judge got scared and said, oh, I can't do this. And within a year, Walpoff was out of business. They were not promoting that anymore. And we never saw it anymore in any of the credit card agreements. They just abandoned the whole thing because they realized that if they could do it, then we could do it. We were doing the same thing they were, so there was no way they could, be the exclusive one. So if we were to do like just the DOH, like I love that idea, that party, do that. Get online, fill it out together. Yeah, it can work, and you don't have to go to court. But we have the numbers of people to do this. Yeah,
Yeah, we totally do. We had a success here where we took action against these
yeah.
egregious, upsetting highway signs
The
telling you to
DOT, I thought
stay
that was
home and
great.
save lives and wash your hands. And they're coming down in all these states. Now there are a few of the cities that have the little signs on the side of the city street. That's not
Right.
the Department of Transportation. That's your own municipal city that you have to go to and
Mm-hmm.
tell them that they're breaking the law, or and find out if what the law is regarding those signs. But the thing is, it worked, and we had one county. It's called a district. You have
Yeah.
your state has transportation districts. In
Mm-hmm.
California, we got on the record one district saying, you're absolutely right. There is no longer emergency.
Yeah.
The signs are coming down. We copied that official's email,
Statement.
and
Yeah.
that statement went into all of the statements that went across the country saying, look, it's already been officially taken down in California. What are you going to do about it?
Ooh.
And we are
Yeah.
seeing the dominoes fall. Now, friends, you might be saying, who cares about the sign? That doesn't help me. It means everything.
It means everything.
It means you
Mm-hmm.
took action. It means
Mm-hmm.
they took notice. And it means, and even if they didn't take the signs down, the fact is they got tens of thousands of people
Yeah.
writing to them. They know that we are on to
That's
them. So
right.
that's what John wants. We
Yeah.
actually are like being assistant to counsel for him, because he's done all the legwork for us. I mean, this is a lot of hours and a lot of, mental um, uh, energy and attention. He created this for us, you guys. If you send me a letter if you email me and complain about something, I am just going to say, did you do the action that John asked us to do? Did you file? Did you amend this or modify it and send it to the person in charge
There's
of
always
staff?
something to
Don't
do.
send it to the customer service.
Yeah. Yeah. There are no dead ends.
No, no
Do not just
donuts.
be the guy that says, I they did this to me. No, you just document it. Be rational. I know it's frustrating, but be rational. And there is something else to do. If you don't know what that is, get in your group, get with me, Peggy. We have there is something, and if I've never heard of it before, I'll figure it out. There's always something. And just
There's
yeah.
always another way. Yeah, we are going to have meetup groups. So we are organizing in every single state. We're going to have, I don't know why I said 35. We're going to have 50 meetup groups. One, maybe I'm thinking the number of counties or something. Um, at least one for every state. So you'll be able to connect with people to find out these codes, the statutes.
Hmm.
Um, there is strength in numbers. You'll be able to find that with each other, and all of this legal information is at thehealthyamerican.org. Click on civil rights. Some of you guys are asking still about the emergency. There is no emergency. There is
Mm.
no emergency. There's no state emergency. There's no national emergency. There's no global emergency. There's no local emergency. There's no city emergency. John, what I would like to do is to get a bulletproof plan on an upcoming call where
Hmm.
we show how to file fraud complaints against the city councils, against the mayors, against the
Yeah.
board of
Disaster
supervisors,
fraud. Yeah.
and all of that, and also the state auditor. And in my county,
Right.
we have a civil grand jury whose job is to investigate public
Hmm.
servant wrongdoing. So I'm just on the tip of doing all that, and I think if we got something, again, we'll have the healthy
Hmm.
Americans and on board to do all of the actual filing. John is the master at getting the step by step. I'm the cheerleader to
Well,
encourage you guys to do it.
this will be the next level because you need to do that stuff on the front end consumer level. But when you hit the IG's office, Inspector General's and the auditor, that I think is going to bring it down because when the DOH is found to be advocating violating the law on an important public issue, that's a huge state financial problem. And just so you guys know, who's the money? There's money behind this, of course. And I'm gonna tell you, don't be intimidated by this, but I'll tell you, it's unlimited money and it's our money. So just be aware of that, but they're not going to succeed. I don't care how much money you throw at this, they're just not. But here's what's going on. You got World Health Organization and the World Bank group that have formed the Global Preparedness Monitoring Board, okay? So they can hide their IDs, their names. I read their financials and I read what they're doing. They're pushing money to all the countries and municipalities and governors and whoever's going to go along with this. They're pushing funds to them to do this. They're even anticipating people like us. They're anticipating re- revolts. They're anticipating paying for military action to overcome the revolts. It's really ugly. And I will tell you that their plans that I have read, their financial plans, COVID-19 is a business franchise. It is not a virus. It's the trade name of a business franchise. And I will tell you, there's two things going on. The banks, the World Bank is funded out to the year 2025, March 31st, 2025. I read it in their own documents. And the US Patent and Trademark Office has issued a fast track notice. You guys can look this up to anyone who's using COVID-19 in its trade name. They waive all the filing fees for your trademark registrations. So if you want to start a business with that and promote like mask wearing or something, you get a fast track to brand it and get a trademark or whatever and go. So yeah, that's what's going on the backside. But they're breaking the law every day, every minute, and if we hit them right where it hurts, I think we'll get some ground this year. I think we'll do it this year.
Friends, John Jay, you must be related, like in your lineage, to, in the Revolutionary War, freedom fighters, patriots, or something.
Uh,
Do you have that in? We
I
all
don't
do
know.
because we're still here, right?
Yeah,
We all come from
yeah.
people who went through revolutions, who went through
Hmm.
famines, who went through hardship, and we are here for this time, friends. I am so grateful to you, John. Where can people find? I'll link to everything, but if you want to just let people, you've got a YouTube channel,
Right.
and other businesses, but this is all done out of patriotism. Super
Hmm.
generous. Do you know how many thousands of dollars you would spend for an attorney to get this information?
Yeah, I don't
He's
know.
doing this to
Yeah.
save our country.
Yeah. Well, I'm really, it's for me because it's for my family. Because if I'm the only one that knows it, what good is that? So we have the power to do it, and we can. We set up our system, so we have these checks and balances. Let's use them. So, and I don't mind
Amen.
showing people how to do
Amen.
it. You guys are busy working at your jobs, being an expert at what you do, and this is what I do. So I'm sharing what I do. So, but yeah, I mean, I've got a channel. If you look on Privacy Fight in YouTube, just Privacy Fight is one word. I talk a lot about cryptographic currency investing. I do a lot of structuring for people, so they can avoid tax liability and all this stuff. And crypto is part of this too, because the financial system is being reset, and so the fake pandemic is a way to cover that and to blame the collapse on something that never really happened, so they can hide their incompetence and their thievery and whatever. So cryptographic currency is going to be a key thing in the near future, if not starting like this year. And so I work with a lot of people on that. So you'll see videos on that subject, but you'll see also videos on the Privacy Fight channel and also privacyfight.com. I have a lot of videos, just a handful right now, but we're going to do more, like Peggy's going to have. We're going to share our content on this subject in general. So
This
yeah,
is so fantastic,
yeah,
John. Like me, you're just relentless. And there's something very satisfying to see the enemy fall into the snare the trap that they set for us, they're falling in it.
yeah,
And in California, I mean, another whole topic, if we want to get more traction, is all of the EPA regulations. There are so many laws, so many regulations that are being violated in terms of the masks and all that. I just love looking for ways. There's the EEOC that we could do. There
yeah.
are so many legal remedies, friends. But the one takeaway I have for you is this: I want you to feel empowered.
Hmm.
The number one tool of the enemy, of these evildoers, actually, there are three things. They want to divide us. All right.
Hmm.
That may be coming. There's going to be a day where the internet may
Hmm.
be down and all.
Hmm.
That's where we need local groups where you can go, like,
Hmm.
like where I am. We have our mutual aid groups, and we know exactly the day, the time, the location. We do it regularly. If anything goes down, we know that people are going to be there because it's already set. So division is conquered by connection. All right. That's one of the principles of
Yep.
the Healthy American. Stay connected. We'll do the meetup groups, hang out with John, get on my email list. Number two, they do confusion. It's confusing.
Hmm.
I don't know the laws. Is it what is the regulation? What's a statute? What's an order? No. Clarity comes from education. That's what we did for you today. We're going to do it
Hmm.
again and again and again. You can repeat this, you can pause, you can take notes. Number three, the tool is despair. Despair is
Yeah.
giving up. It's too much. It's the powers that be, the new world order, you can't fight it. No, we are fighting it.
Yeah.
So action is what overcomes despair. The most important thing for you to do is to feel empowered. You do have the power. We're going to be here to support you, encourage you, cheer you on, give you the step by step. So, signing off for now, friends. I know I've got more questions. You're going to go to thehealthyamerican.org. I'm going to link to John's stuff. We're going to have all the details. We'll be online again very soon. You got to get on the email list to find out when. John, I am sending you from Orange County, California to Orange County, Florida. I think it's awesome that we've teamed up. We are really going to be making waves. I do a lot of
Yeah.
impassioned talks, but now we've got the legal stuff with your
Hmm.
knowledge and expertise. So
Hmm.
signing off for now, friends. A big shout out. We got lots of hearts and likes and all the shares. Over 500 people more tuning in live, and more that will be
Great.
doing the repeat. So, John, stay on for a second. We're going to
Okay.
stop the live stream here. So thanks, everybody. And we